Let's dive into something we all want: better sleep. We've got awesome material to work with today. A super helpful list of tips from Healthline, and then this NIH article that gets into the why of sleep.
Yeah, it's more than just like feeling rested.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think you'll be surprised by what the NIH article says about, what our brains actually do while we sleep. It's not just downtime. But first, why is sleep such a big deal anyway?
Well, sleep, it's not just lying there. It's an active thing. Your body's busy repairing and detoxifying. The NIH article goes deep on this. It's really fascinating. Like, while you're asleep, your brain is literally cleaning out waste.
So like a little garbage disposal for our brain.
It's more like a really complex drainage system. There are even studies on mice showing how this system during sleep removes toxins way faster than when they're awake.
Okay, that's wild. But how does that connect to me trying to get better sleep?
It's all connected. This drainage system, it's tied to things like memory and even protecting against diseases like Alzheimer's. The NIH study actually found a link between this cleaning process and getting rid of harmful proteins that are linked to Alzheimer's. It's not just like waking up refreshed, it's about your long-term brain health.
Wow, that's a good point. I guess those late-night Netflix binges,
Yeah.
maybe not so good.
Right. And that brings us to some sleep myths we gotta bust.
Hmm.
You don't need less sleep as you get older, and no, you can't really catch up on the weekends. It's about consistency.
So no more "I'll sleep when I'm dead" attitude.
Not if you want a good, long, healthy life.
Fair enough. So we know why it matters. Now, how do we put this into action?
That's where those Healthline tips come in. And to understand them, we got to talk about the circadian rhythm. It's like your body's natural sleep-wake cycle, and light has a huge effect on it.
Ah, right, this whole blue light thing I keep hearing about.
Exactly. During the day, that bright light, especially sunlight, helps regulate that rhythm. But at night, that same light messes with your melatonin. And melatonin is the hormone that tells your brain, hey, it's sleepy time.
So are we talking about blue light blocking glasses here? Do those actually work?
They can, especially since we're all on screens so much. The key is just less blue light near bedtime. Dim the lights, put the phone away a couple hours before bed. That helps you transition naturally.
So like we're mimicking the setting sun, but for our digital lives.
Exactly. Now, another thing about your sleep environment is temperature.
I always thought a warm, cozy room was best for sleep.
It might feel that way, but research says a slightly cooler room around 65 degrees is actually ideal.
So bundle up in blankets, but turn down the thermostat.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, what about those late night snacks? Are there things we should avoid before bed?
Absolutely. We talked about blue light and how it affects melatonin,
Hmm.
but what you eat and drink, that matters too.
Oh, so no midnight ice cream. Probably not the best idea. Eating a big meal too close to bedtime can mess with your sleep. Try to finish dinner at least a couple of hours before bed. And the same goes for caffeine and alcohol.
Wait, even alcohol? I thought that was supposed to help you sleep.
It might make you drowsy at first, but then later it disrupts your sleep cycles. You won't get that deep restorative sleep.
So no more late night cappuccinos or cocktails.
Hmm.
Bummer. Anything else about diet and sleep we should know?
Well, if you're really hungry, a light snack is fine, but nothing heavy, greasy, or sugary. Oh, and stay hydrated during the day, but don't drink too much right before bed so you don't wake up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, I've definitely been there.
We all have. Now, this is interesting, and it ties back to that drainage system. Some research suggests that a higher carb diet might actually get in the way of this cleaning process
Yeah.
compared to a lower carb approach.
So what we eat before bed affects how well our brain cleans itself at night. That's crazy.
It really is. It just shows you how connected everything is when it comes to sleep.
So light, temperature, and diet. What else can we do to create the perfect sleep space?
Think about what makes you relaxed. A good mattress, the right pillows, comfy bedding, and don't forget about noise. If it's loud where you live, white noise, earplugs, even a fan can help.
Yeah, tossing and turning all night is definitely not good for sleep. And what about quieting those racing thoughts before bed? Any advice?
Relaxation techniques are key. It could be a warm bath, reading, calming music, or mindfulness exercises. Find what works for you to unwind.
Speaking of things that keep us up, stress is a big one, right?
Absolutely. Chronic stress is actually one of the main causes of insomnia. Finding healthy ways to manage stress during the day, like exercise, meditation, being in nature, can really improve your sleep.
So it's not just what we do right before bed, but how we manage our well-being all day long.
You got it. And speaking of connections, sometimes sleep problems aren't just stress or bad habits. They can be caused by actual sleep disorders.
Right, sometimes it's something more serious. What are some common ones we should be aware of?
Well, insomnia, that's the inability to fall asleep or stay asleep. It's super common. Then there's sleep apnea, where your breathing actually pauses while you sleep.
I've heard of sleep apnea. That sounds kind of scary.
It can be. Untreated sleep apnea can lead to other health problems like high blood pressure and heart disease.
So if you're waking up exhausted, snoring really loud, or feeling super sleepy during the day, those are signs to talk to a doctor.
Absolutely. There are other sleep disorders too, like restless legs syndrome and narcolepsy. The good news is there are treatments for most of them. So if you're struggling, don't just suffer. Talk to your doctor.
Good advice. And that's a perfect segue into the next part of our deep dive, where we'll get into those 15 tips from Healthline.
We'll cover everything from supplements to sleep schedules and how to make those tips work for you.
So stay tuned for part 2, where we take all this science and turn it into action for better sleep. Welcome back. So in part 1, we got into the science of sleep, the importance of light, and a good sleep environment. Now let's get practical. Those 15 sleep tips from Healthline. Ready to dive in.
Let's do it.
We already talked about a relaxing bedtime routine, dimming the lights, avoiding screens late at night. What else helps?
Well, there's the supplement route. They're not like a cure-all, but combined with lifestyle changes, they can be helpful for some people.
Okay, interesting. What kind of supplements are we talking about?
Melatonin is a popular one.
Mm.
It's a hormone that naturally regulates your sleep cycle. So taking it as a supplement can signal to your brain that it's time to wind down.
I've heard of melatonin, but I've always been kind of hesitant about supplements. Is it safe?
Yeah, for most adults, short-term use of melatonin is considered safe. But it's always best to talk to your doctor before starting any new supplement, especially if you're, taking other medications or have any health conditions.
Good point. So melatonin. Anything else?
Magnesium, it's been shown to help you sleep. It can relax muscles and calm the nervous system.
I take magnesium for leg cramps. Maybe that's why I've been sleeping better.
Could be. There's also some evidence that omega-3 fatty acids, zinc, even certain antioxidants like resveratrol might help regulate sleep.
So many natural options. It seems like we have more control over our sleep than we realize.
You absolutely do. It's about figuring out what works best for you. Just experiment and see what makes a difference.
Okay, so supplements aside, what about things we do, behaviors we can change to sleep better?
Yeah.
Healthline mentions naps. I'm a big nap fan, but are they always a good thing?
Naps can be a little tricky. The quick power nap. Yeah, it can actually make you more alert and help you think better. But long naps, or irregular ones, they mess with your sleep cycle and make it harder to fall asleep at night.
So it's all about the timing and how long you nap.
Exactly. If naps are messing with your sleep at night, keep them to 20-30 minutes max and don't nap too late in the day.
Makes sense. Now, what about exercise? We know it's good for us overall, but how does it affect sleep?
Regular exercise is great for sleep. It reduces stress, tires you out, and helps regulate your circadian rhythm. But like naps, timing matters.
Interesting. So what's the best time to work out for good sleep?
Earlier in the day is ideal. Exercising too close to bedtime actually makes it harder to fall asleep. Your body temperature and heart rate are up after a workout, so your brain thinks it's time to be awake, not sleep.
So morning workouts are the winner.
Yeah, ideally. If you have to work out later, try to finish at least a few hours before bed. Give your body time to, wind down.
Okay, good to know. Let's talk about those late night snacks again. No heavy meals before bed, but are there specific foods or drinks we should avoid?
We talked about caffeine and alcohol, but heavy, greasy food is another one. It just sits there, takes longer to digest, keeps you up with heartburn.
That makes sense. What about sugar cravings late at night?
Those are best to avoid too. And remember the brain's drainage system. Some research says that a high-carb diet might actually affect sleep quality negatively compared to like a lower-carb approach.
So it's not just how much we eat before bed, but what we eat.
It's all connected. It's amazing how the choices we make during the day have these ripple effects on our sleep.
Totally. Okay, so recap. No late night feasts, watch the carbs, no caffeine or alcohol before bed. What else sets us up for sleep success?
It might seem obvious, but a comfy sleep environment is so important. A good mattress, good pillows, bedding that feels nice.
Right, because being uncomfortable definitely doesn't help you fall asleep. What about noise? I know some people use white noise or earplugs.
Yeah, blocking noise can make a big difference. If you live in a noisy place, white noise, earplugs, even a fan can really help. drown out those distractions.
Okay, so we've optimized the physical space, but what about our minds? Any tips for those racing thoughts?
Relaxation techniques are key here. A warm bath, reading, calming music, or doing some mindfulness exercises. It's about finding what helps you unwind and de-stress before bed.
Building on that, I imagine stress is a big sleep killer, right?
Huge. Chronic stress is one of the main causes of insomnia, so managing stress during the day is super important for good sleep.
So exercise, meditation, nature, all that good stuff helps us sleep better too.
Exactly. And if you're still struggling to sleep, even with these changes, you might want to consider if there's an underlying sleep disorder.
Right. Sometimes it's more than just stress or bad habits. We
Yeah.
mentioned insomnia and sleep apnea, but any other sleep disorders to watch out for?
Well, there's restless legs syndrome. That's where you have this urge to move your legs, often with uncomfortable feelings. And then there's narcolepsy, where you have excessive daytime sleepiness and these sudden sleep attacks you can't control.
Wow. Sounds like there are a lot of different sleep disorders.
There are, and while they can be really disruptive, the good news is that there are effective treatments for most of them.
So if anything feels off with your sleep, best to check in with a doctor.
Absolutely. Now, before we move on, I want to come back to that brain drainage system and what we eat.
Oh, yeah. You said a higher carb diet might not be ideal for that whole cleaning process.
Right. And some new research suggests that certain foods might actually help this process. Foods rich in antioxidants and omega-3s, for example.
So we might be able to boost our brain's cleaning power through diet.
It's exciting research. We need more studies, but it's definitely something to think about.
Okay, we've covered so much about these sleep tips. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this section?
I'd just say improving your sleep is a journey. It takes time, trying things out, and really prioritizing your sleep health, but it's worth it. Better sleep means better health, better mood, better life overall.
Well said. And speaking of journeys, in part 3, we'll explore a final, thought-provoking idea inspired by that drainage system.
We'll be asking, can we optimize this process even more? Could we unlock new levels of brain power and health?
Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll explore the future of sleep and the amazing possibilities ahead. We're back for the final part of our sleep deep dive. Feeling pretty energized after all that talk about, well, sleep.
Right. It's incredible what we're learning about sleep. It affects our health, our mood, everything.
Totally. So before we wrap up, I want to circle back to that NIH research. That whole drainage system in the brain, the one that flushes out all the junk while we sleep.
Yeah, it's such a game changer. It's not just downtime. Our brains are busy.
Exactly. So here's a thought. What if we could make that cleaning process even better?
Wow. Yeah. Imagine boosting that drainage system, not just for better sleep, but for sharper thinking, more creativity, even protecting our brains as we age.
Right. Our brains are already doing all this amazing stuff. What if we could supercharge it? Like reach new levels of brain power?
It's a really cool area of research, and scientists are already looking at ways to stimulate that system. Things like specific sleep positions, targeted therapies, even sound frequencies that might help.
Wow. It sounds like we're on the verge of some big breakthroughs in sleep science.
Yeah, we are. And who knows, maybe someday we'll be able to customize our sleep, not just how much we sleep, but the quality to really optimize brain health and thinking.
Like a nightly tune-up for our brains.
Exactly. Imagine waking up every morning not just rested, but feeling sharper and more creative.
That's the dream.
Oh,
Well, that wraps up our sleep deep dive. I hope you've learned a lot and are ready to prioritize your own sleep.
remember, even small changes can make a big difference. Try one or two of those tips we talked about and see how you feel.
And never forget, sleep isn't a luxury. It's essential for our health and well-being. So make it a priority, find what works for you, and sweet dreams.